Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Catch Podcast. Today, we will be talking about deciphering the voices, whether that be God's voice, your voice, or the enemy's voice. Isaiah, take us away.
First initial question for you all. Just let's start off simple. What does decipher mean? Just in case there's somebody that doesn't know, you can look to Noah Webster if you need some help. But what decipher, or even like discernment, because I know that's like kind of like a synonym to it. So how would you guys define it?
I did not know this was going to be like a test question.
Nope.
I would have came more ready for
exactly.
tests. I would say in speaking of deciphering the voices, it's just mainly about knowing the difference between. It's knowing this is one voice, it's another voice, and this is a completely separate voice. It's knowing the difference of all of those things and all those things being true, but being completely different in that.
I love that definition.
I was like, she's actually going to look it up, so I'm just going to start rambling so she can get it out.
How to put that in normal words. This says, decipher means to succeed in understanding, interpreting, or identifying something. That's really good. I really like that interpreting part because I think it points to the fact that it's not obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the whole, is it God? Is it me? Is it the devil?
Right.
It's really not obvious, especially when they all speak through your mind.
Right.
Like it's all in the same location. And it's not like one is like, Hadassah, you must do this. And one is like, Hadassah.
Yeah.
Like that would be very obvious.
Right.
But that's not what happens. So you just feel like, okay.
I'm hearing voices.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think it also makes it harder because it's like, of course, we know, like, man, just from birth, your thoughts are not always on pure things. You're gonna have things that are not always right. So it's like this. You're kind of like the gray area as a person, because it's like you're not purely good, which is God, but you're not purely evil, which is the devil. So it's like, I think that's where people get tripped up a lot of times. It's not really the devil's voice that they confuse for God sometimes. A lot of times it's their own voice, because they're like, okay, well, this isn't really wrong for me to want this, so maybe it is God. But I think that is really the main voice that you need to really discern.
That's very true.
I would disagree with you for some part of that because the devil is a deceiver.
Right.
So he actually does try to mimic God and sound exactly like God. And he might even say stuff that sounds good.
Right.
But when it comes to fulfilling God's will, it's not the way God wanted it done. So it could be like, let's say, you should get a house, right? So if God's telling you should get a house, the devil's telling you you should get a house, and you telling you should get a house.
Right.
Right? The devil will try to make you get it from a different angle. Let's say, I don't know, like cheat the system, I guess, if I can say something like that. And God will make you like wait and stuff like that, or just maybe start off with an apartment and then get a house. So I just wanted to say that because the devil likes to deceive people.
And I think that's why a lot of points that people miss, especially Christians miss, is that asking for confirmation. I feel like people, they love to act like God is a one-time answer, like he's only going to get you what he's going to say it once and that's it. But when you even think of the story of Gideon, like Gideon went to God twice and was like, I know that maybe you said this, but I need you to confirm it by this, or I need you to, and then he was like, okay, that was good, but I got to make sure. So I need you to confirm it like this. So it's like, you can't be afraid to ask God for confirmation, because he knows that you have these three voices that are constantly going against you. That's true. Of course he's going to give you that confirmation if you ask.
But what if when you ask for the confirmation, it happens to be another voice? And there stems the other issue. So the first voice was God, and you should have believed when he first spoke. But now that you maybe a sense of doubt, the devil comes in like, okay, you do this. And you're like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. So it can really confuse people.
Like they're saying the opposite things?
In a sense.
Okay.
Because I think it's back to my first point where they somewhat have the same goal, but different directions how to get there.
Okay, I get that. Yeah, but I do think confirmation is so important.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Like when you first feel like God is leading you to something, to kind of just sit on it and just stay prayerful and like, God, if this is you, show me. Or even I love like praying like, God, if this is you, open the door. Like I'm not doing anything of my own volition. I'm just like, God, if this is you, make a way. And not to say, like, obviously faith without works is dead. But if it's like, let's say a new job opportunity, you already have a job. Right. But it's a new job opportunity. You saw it and you felt like God was leading you to it. Or you just thought might be interesting. I love to pray now. Like, it's one of my new favorite prayers. Like, God, if this is not you, close it, the door immediately. Right. Like, God, if this is not you, don't let it work out. And it's a weird prayer to pray per se, but it keeps you from so much.
And I think that is the thing, like, just about being, you know, just a human. You, of course, you always go in and you're like, oh, God, this is not you, like, take it away from me. And then when he takes it away from you, you're like, oh, facts. Okay. And I think that's just, it also is hard because as Christians, you know, of course, we're supposed to be like, oh, you know, God, your will be done. But a lot of times we don't live like that. Like, a lot of times it's like, God, I want your will to fit my will. So when I hear a voice that says, go after that guy, I always wanted that guy. So, yeah, I'm going to go after him. And I'm going to just say it was your voice. You have to be careful when you're listening to the first voice that agrees with you. The first voice that sounds like something that you would want to hear because, like, what? Why? If it does not line up with God's word, but it lines up with your desires perfectly, maybe we're not really hearing the right voice here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think another way you can tell is read his word.
Yeah.
Because then you get to know how God, in a sense, thinks. Of course, we'll never know exactly how because his ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. But if you read his word, you get to at least learn of him and how he usually goes through stuff. Like for me, I've learned how he really likes to wait. So if I ask for something, if it comes too quick, I'm like, no, that's not God. God likes to take his time. He likes the journey for me. So that's just another way you can tell.
Do you guys think that you have to fail in some areas or get certain things that you want in order to tell the difference between the voices of God, yourself, and the devil?
I will say this. It is what has happened to me. I can't say it's the correct way to go about things, but I can say it's a very real way to go about things. There have been times when, and I was just talking to one of my friends about this before, and I was like, sometimes you were going to ask God, and you were going to ask God, and you were going to ask God. And after a while, he's going to be like, okay, have it. And then you get it, and you're like, oh, no, not that. And then, of course, at first, you're going to be like, now, why would God get at to me if he knew it wasn't going to work out? But it's like, okay. But when he told you no the first time, you didn't take that no. And I think you could think about it like the children of Israel. They wanted a king so bad. And it was just their own, it was their new form of idolatry, which is, we could talk about that, about how a lot of the things you want go into idolatry. But if we just talk about the fact that they wanted a king so bad. And when God went to Samuel, he was like, they want a king because they just don't want me. So I'm going to give them their king, and they're going to have to deal with that consequence forever. And I think a lot of times, I read the word, I still end up doing what I did. Okay, so just, I don't, maybe it's not his will, but it sure enough has happened to me. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah, because in most cases, experience is the best teacher. Whew. And when you experience it for yourself, now you can watch other people go through it and stuff like that. But when it's different when you experience it and you take it, because it leaves an imprint on your heart, and it leaves an imprint on your soul, and it leaves an imprint most importantly on your mind, and which is where all your thoughts come from. And then you can like align to recognize God's voice.
Because that's the thing with it, like, of course, we always say, like, everybody's different. So when people do things right or wrong, their consequences and the actions that have to happen after are completely different. And I think, of course, there are some things where you definitely should just learn by seeing people. There are some things you should not have to walk into if you see somebody get hurt that bad by it. Like, it's like, oh, my gosh, like, so-and-so fell into a ditch and broke both of their legs. I think, though, if I fell into the ditch, I wouldn't break both of my legs.
I'd be fine.
No. There are some things that you definitely should be able to see the example and follow. Yeah. But sadly, there are some things where it's like, okay, they fell, but maybe it wasn't that bad, so maybe I can. And that's your flesh, and you're gonna learn.
Yeah,
don't worry.
That's true. And I think it does also come to the fact that everyone has different temptations.
Yeah.
So it's like someone could go through the exact same situation as me, but because they're not tempted in that area, like they're fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Me, like,
no, for real.
then you'd be like, oh, okay, so next time around, you have fun with that. I'll be over there, because that's so interesting to me, and that's so scary. What you were saying, like God will sometimes leave you with the consequences of your choices forever.
Right.
Like David, family broke forever.
That's crazy.
Balaam, like dude was about to die.
For real.
Die. Like he asked God, should I go? No. Should I go? No. Can I go? Fine. You go, and then you're about to die?
Right.
Like, God had an angel. His wrath was that heavy that there was an angel about to kill this dude.
Didn't that also happen? I don't remember the exact story, but about that one young servant that kept asking to go spread the news about Absalom? I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Can
What
you
is his
explain that story?
name? Oh my gosh.
The servant?
Yes.
Or at least do you know the story?
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell it?
Okay, so let's go over this story. So David is, of course, at the time his son is trying to kill him. His son Absalom wants him dead. But David, being the loving father he is, he's like, guys, when you find my son, don't deal with him harshly. No matter what, please be kind to him, right? So all of, David's swordsmen, they go out and they're looking. They're like, oh, we're going to find him. They find him, right? He has this beautiful, long, luscious hair, that Absalom. And it gets stuck in a tree. So he is hanging. On a tree, right? Some of the soldiers see him and they tell, I think, is his name Joab or Joab?
No, I think it's Joab.
Yeah, Joab.
Okay. They tell Joab and they're like, hey, he's right here. We got him. And Joab is like, oh, don't y'all worry. We killing that man. And he does. He very much so does kill him. And the servant is like, oh my gosh, y'all, this is so crazy. Like, we did it. We got Absalom. Let's go tell David. Joab is like, you shouldn't go tell David. You got to stay back, because this news will break David. Maybe we just need someone who is more trained in the field of empathy, letting people down slowly. But he's like, no, please, let me go. And he has already, mind you, Joab has already sent the other servant. He was like, no, go. You tell him, right? But he's like, no, please, just let me go. So he's like, fine, you go. So this man, this little servant, right, young man, runs and beats the older servant to David. And he's like, oh, David, you wouldn't believe it. We got him. And he's like, oh, you did? He was like, but my son's still alive, right? And he's like, I wasn't really there for that part. So, I can't really tell you that much. And he's like, oh, okay. And then that second servant come and he's like, yeah, we got him. Mm-hmm. And David's like, is my son alive? And he said, don't you worry. We handled him. And we killed him. And of course, David is now down in the depths. But the servant was so eager to tell. And then when it came time for him to really tell the truth, he had to step back a bit, because he was like, oh, now I understand this was not my role.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great telling of that story. We got some help, and the servant, the young one, his name is Ahimaaz, I'm gonna say Ahimaaz, and then the older one is Cush. But that's a great story and very little talked about.
Yes.
But that is a
very
story.
big story on knowing the voices.
Yes,
because you hear no, you say no. Okay, because I feel like that's also the thing. Now, maybe this is just my way of thinking. I feel like a lot of times when I want to do things, the devil hardly tells me no. You know what I mean?
Right.
God is quick to tell me no.
Right.
When I'm like, man, should I pray right now?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta know the difference. Like, and sometimes it's gonna be easy. Sometimes it will not be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know we got to go. But that's another thing we didn't mention. What about the voices outside of your head, which is people?
People.
How do you deal with that, which also includes like peer pressure and what they say and stuff like that?
I think it's important to not tell people immediately.
Yeah.
Like to take some time to just pray on it yourself.
Right.
Or pray to God. Well, obviously, yeah, I hope you're praying to God and to no one else. But just to take some time with the Lord. Take some time with your Father, you know?
Yeah.
And just let it sit for a second before you just go telling everybody.
Because that's the thing. Discerning voices in your head and discerning spirits are two very different levels.
Very true.
So for you to be able to discern the spirit that is in a person and you to be able to discern the voice that is inside your head, let's take it slowly, okay? Don't tell everybody your next move, because you go mess around and find out.
That's very true. And whether people have good intentions or not, it still is not always the best advice. Like, there's been times where my friends have told me something, and I'm like, yes, girl, pop off, you should do that. And then I see the results, and I'm like, oh
my bad.
Should have stayed quiet.
Yeah.
And I have their best interest at heart.
Right.
But we the same age, and we got the same amount of knowledge.
Right.
I don't know.
It's not on you.
It's not,
We all made a mistake.
Yeah. Even if you get advice from your friends, still back it up and go to the Lord.
Always
go to those with more wisdom. Go to those on a higher level with the Lord, because we don't always know.
And it's not gonna be you.
And godly counsel.
Amen.
It'll help you through it. Some people or someone that can hear better from God, or they recognize His voice better than you do. So this was a good episode, guys. We didn't even get to talk about. I wanted to talk about Paul and the little girl, but we ran out of time.
Oh.
Yes.
I was like,
but
I get you now.
Yes. But we ran out of time. But this has been a fun episode. So we'll catch you later.
We'll catch you later.
We'll catch you later.
Beautiful.